Welcome to Your Neighborhood Gaming, your home for everything gaming. The Hunt for the Treasure Hunter event is on again in Fallout 76, and we're here with a really cool guide to help you get through the event and get all those wonderful goodies. So what is the event? Well, every so often, mole miner treasure hunters wander the wastelands, running away from danger, trying to hoard all their wonderful treasures. And it's our job to go around the map and find them. Now, they can spawn anywhere outside that spawns creatures, but there are certain areas that spawn them more often, and we've got a map for you of that at the end of the video. But importantly, they make this telltale radio sound when they're running around, and so you can always know when you're near one. Once you hear that sound, just start traveling around until it starts getting louder and follow that radio all the way to Mr. Man and give him a nice little bullet to the dome. Now, what happens when you get him? Well, he drops one really nice legendary weapon of whatever star his variety was, and it'll drop one mole miner pail, in addition to some other random loot that we don't really care about right now. But that's not the only way you can get these mole miner pails. Another way to get them is by traveling to all of the vendors. Each of the vendor bots, in addition to Graham and some of the scavenger traders, will trade one of each of the empty pails. Now, you can server hop to get more of them, and if you have access to a private server, that's a good way to get some too. Now, the lowest price you're going to find for these pails, depending on your charisma, is going to be 219 caps for a dusty, 656 caps for a plain mole miner pail, and 1925 for the ornate. Now, in my opinion, I would go with the plain mole miner pail every time because it costs a whole lot less and you only lose a 20% chance of a rare reward. Now, what do you do once you have empty mole miner pails? Well, you take them over to the Tinker's workbench and craft full ones. For a dusty mole miner pail, it takes 6 screws and 20 steel. For just a plain mole miner pail, it takes 6 screws, 5 silver, 5 spring, and 20 steel. And for an ornate mole miner pail, it takes 5 gold, 6 screw, 5 silver, and 5 spring. Now, I promised to tell you my favorite route to catch as many treasure hunter mole miners as I can. This route is built off of the idea of spending as little as possible on travel fees while maximizing the chances of getting a mole miner. All of these places are hotspots, but if you don't have all of them found yet, you can skip the ones you don't have. But of course, half the fun is finding these places. I usually start at the Tyler County Fairground. That place is full of Scorched, but it usually spawns at least one mole miner, sometimes 2. After that, we jog up north to the Groves family home. There's not a lot going on here, but it usually spawns at least one mole miner. Next, it's down to Lady Janet's soft serve. Here's another one that usually will pop at least one. This is one of our longer jumps. That's over to the east at Grafton Steel. Now, this place is full of super mutants, but it usually pops at least 2 mole miners. I've had times that I've hit 3 and sometimes even 4 there. Next, we head down south to the Morgantown Airport. This is another one that's full of Scorched, and usually there's at least 1, but there have been times when I've gotten 2 there, which was always nice. After the airport, we head down to Helvetia. Now, this is another area that's full of Scorched, but I usually get at least 2 mole miners when I hit here. It's usually either all or nothing. Then it's just a quick jog to the southwest to hit Sutton. Now, this one is skippable. It's hit or miss when I go. I'll usually only get 1, but you really do kind of have to look for it to get it. After that is just a little bit to the southwest to the new River Gorge Resort. Now this place almost always has one, so I wouldn't recommend skipping this one. Then it is a quick jog up to the northwest to the Alpine River Cabins. This is another one that usually always has at least one, which is kind of nice. Then down to the new River Gorge Bridge. Now, there usually is at least one here, but this one is a little less fun to deal with just because you kind of have to go across the entire bridge to possibly find one. Definitely skippable, but it is a fun little obstacle course that can break up the monotony. After the bridge, we head over to the Silva Homestead. Now, this is another place where I almost always get at least one. And then when we're done at the homestead, it's onward to the Kanawha Nuka-Cola plant. Now this is one of those places where I have to remind you, they're only outside. Now you'll get at least 2, sometimes 3 here, but they're not inside, so do not go inside. It will not help you. Then we head up to the northeast to the Poseidon Energy Plant, West Virginia. Now, there are usually 2 to 3 of them here, but this is another one of those maze type areas. So if you don't like dealing with that, it is skippable, but you will be missing out on some mole miners. Next, we head down to the southeast to the AVR Medical Center. Now this one is hit or miss. A lot of times I don't find any. Usually if I do, I only find one. So if you're pressed for time on your run, it's definitely skippable. After the medical center, we head on over to Bleeding Kate's Grindhouse. That's another one that I don't really like very much, so I don't hit every single time, but it's definitely worth it if you're trying to maximize the number of mole miners you get. Then we head up to New Gad. Now, this place is full of super mutants, so don't go if you're not geared right. But if you are sure to get not only all that wonderful super mutant loot, but at least a couple of mole miners as well. Then we head over to the White Springs Golf Course. Now this is another one that's full of the most annoying mobs available, and a lot of them. It's those radiation spitting ghouls. But if you're geared up to handle that, you'll also find at least a couple of mole miners there. Once we're done with the golf course, we head all the way down to the southeast to the South Mountain Lookout. Now, you can skip that and just hit Foundation as a free fast travel, but there's usually at least one mole miner there. Then we head up to Huntersville. Now, this is another place that is full of super mutants. You can get some pretty good loot here, and there's usually 1 or 2 mole miners as well. Once we're done there, we'll take a jog up to the north to the Investigator's Cabin. Now, generally speaking, you'll only find 1 there, and that's a maybe, but it is a nice little respite from the gauntlet of creatures that you've had to go through just to get to this point. Once we're done at the Investigator's Cabin, it's over to the east to the West Tech Research Center. Now, this is another one. Do not go inside. Inside will not help you. The mole miners only spawn outside. But you can find a bunch here. I've seen as many as 3 roaming around this section of the map. Then once we're done at West Tech, we do a quick jump to the National Isolated Radio Array. This is another place where you're going to find some good loot and at least 1 or 2 mole miners. Don't skip this place. Once we're done at the radio array, it's up to the Beckwith Farm. Now, generally, I'll only find 1 there. I don't think there's been many times where I found more than 1, but it's a pretty reliable one. That said, if you are going for the most miners per minute, it is skippable. Next is the Pleasant Valley Ski Resort. Now, this is another one that is kind of mazy. It's filled with Scorched, but I would never ever skip this one. There's usually at least 2 running around, especially if you add the cabins behind it. In that whole complex, I've gotten 4 before. That is definitely a don't skip spot. Once you've cleared out the Pleasant Valley Resort, head over to the northeast to the Autumn Acre Cabin. Now, there is a large pack of wolves here, and a lot of times there's a legendary one, but there's also usually at least 1 mole miner, so I would never skip it. After the cabin, head up to the Sunny Top Ski Lanes. This is another one that always has at least one or two. I can't recommend this location enough. Definitely don't skip it. And then I'll usually end my run at the Palace of the Winding Path. Now, if you don't like mazes, this is definitely skippable. You're going to miss out on quite a few mole miners because there's a bunch there. But it takes a lot of time to run around that entire map. So if you don't like that type of location, you can just scroll back over to the beginning of the run and start again. The beautiful thing about this run is it is long enough that by the time you get all the way around, even if you stop at Sunny Top Ski Lanes, that first location at the Tyler Fairgrounds has reset, as long as nobody else is following behind you. If you have a private server, I would suggest using it. This will guarantee you're the only one running it, and it will constantly be refreshing over and over and over. Now, once you've collected all the mole miner pails you're going to get, what do you do with them? Well, that's easy. You open them, of course, and that gets you any one of numerous rewards. These are some of the rarest rewards. Pay special attention to things like the animatronic clown, the different tubes that are available, all the cursed weapons, and who wouldn't want a Grafton monster mask. In addition to that, you will also find currency, ammo, some junk, and sometimes some goodies like booze and food. Well, that's all there is to the Hunt for the Treasure Hunter event. It's a really fun event, especially if you like chasing after mobs. It's probably my third favorite event behind the two Holiday Scorched events, one of which is coming up really soon. If you liked what you saw, please give the video a like, maybe a comment down below. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, so that way you don't miss out on anything else that we put out. We're live every morning playing Fallout 76. Hopefully we'll see you there. Bye-bye!